Hi. I want to give you a quick update on some of the things we're thinking about doing during this time of the pandemic while we're not in worship. Leadership team has been looking for over a year now, and probably some folks in the church have been looking to replace carpet for probably 4 or 5 years now. You'll notice when you come in the back of the sanctuary that the sun has degraded the color so that there's this very faded yellowish hue to the red carpet. The carpet in the sanctuary is from, I believe, 1989 when the building was first built, so it's seen a good life, let's call it 31 years of carpet. And because we're looking at replacing the carpet, one of the things we wanted to do in advance of that was to consider if we wanted to do any kind of reconfiguration of any part of the stage area. We call it the chancel, because there are times when we get to put in these stage pieces to expand it, and if you get the right view, you get to see underneath in the metal front, and if you stand in just the right place with high heel shoes, you can put your shoe between the crack and potentially hurt yourself. One of the things we were fairly concerned about early on was making sure we didn't have places where the wires were above the carpet, and so we didn't have tape and that. So as we think about putting in carpet, we're thinking about all of the pieces that we would do in preparation for making it look absolutely beautiful. So part of our discussion has been to expand the stage so that anything like a cantata or a day school graduation or Christmas Eve worship services, that the stage would be big enough to accommodate any of those kind of things, the orchestra, the music camp. And so what we're talking about doing is taking the level of the stage permanently out to about here, expanding from this place where it's concrete out about 72 inches. So that's, I believe, 6 feet. And then we'll have about 16 to 18 inch step as well that goes all the way across the front of the stage that's built in and permanent. While we do that, we're going to make sure that we put channels in underneath that allow us to put all of the cabling underneath so we can have a little breakout box in different places with jacks for either electricity or for video or for microphones or for speakers. So trying to make a beautiful looking stage area.
We recognize the need to be more inclusive by providing accessibility for people with physical disabilities, including those in both regular and motorized wheelchairs, so that they can participate in our worship.
And we have a number of folks that cannot participate in choir anymore because they can't negotiate stairs. So part of what we're going to do is this hallway back here, we're going to put a ramp that gets up to this height. That will allow folks in wheelchairs and in the choir to make their way all the way behind this area and onto this stage platform. So they'll be able to get into the choir loft and onto the stage so that they can participate in leading worship as well. Because it's hidden behind there, that ramp, which otherwise would take up chairs or paths or areas in the sanctuary, that's a beautiful place for us to do that. It'll elevate the choir loft all the way to that ramp, and we're going to probably, well, our plan is to bring this railing out farther so that there's space behind the railing for another line of chairs for the choir. We're looking at bringing the choir loft over to about here, so that, and it'll be at the same height at each level, so that we can accommodate more in terms of cantata. There are times when we have our full complement of choir and soloists that we've had to put folks in interesting places up on the stage where it's not supposed to be stage. So that's part of our design plan, is to bring the choir loft wider and deeper. Our hope is that we'll be able then to put instruments and other things behind the modesty rail so that we recapture this place over here that has all of the praise team instrumentation. It will mean that we will lose some pews. We'll have to take out probably 2 pews on each side, and we'll have to move the pulpit. Probably be the smaller pulpit somewhere, and it probably or this pulpit with wheels so that it can be moved on the stage easily. A couple times a year we take this large pulpit out and we wheel it down the center aisle and put it aside someplace and bring in a smaller pulpit so that during the cantata and other special events around the edges of Easter and Christmas that we take out the larger pulpit. And so we're going to try to make sure that we don't have to move things in and out over and over. It increases the wear on different places in our sanctuary, and we're trying to take care of that. So we're looking to hide all the wires, make the choir loft large enough to accommodate our biggest events, have staging enough so that we can do any of the flexible worship components that we want to be able to do. During that same time, we'll take out a couple of pews in each places so that there'll still be room for us to do communion and walk through in our 11 o'clock service. The other thing that's part of our plan is to find a way to put in a communion rail that can be removable. That will allow us during very special worship services to have a communion rail in that will allow us to kneel and spend time at the altar for communion. So that's part of our behind the scenes plan for replacing carpet. Let me say that we are not looking to use any funds that could be used for anything else. We have some funds that are designated in our bank account that can only be used for capital improvements. And so to do certain capital improvements, like putting in brand new carpeting, it's one of the few things we can use that money for. Putting in air conditioners, we were able to do that, I think, with the same restricted funds. So it's not that we're going to cut staff or do less missions because we're using funds for carpet. We believe now that the carpet can be done easily in a much at a much lower cost than we had originally thought. Part of our rationale for considering it now is because we wouldn't have to not worship when we're gathering in person, to take all the pews out, put on all the carpet, and then put all the pews back in. Right now we can take the pews out, put in the carpet, and it doesn't mean we have to close for 2 Sundays because we're already not worshiping in person. So just want you to have a heads up about what we're thinking about behind the scenes. If you have suggestions or concerns, we'd be glad to listen to those. We've thought through a number of those kinds of issues already, but please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'll put some email links in the description of this video. Thank you very much.